Hey there, and welcome into University of Hoops, the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team. I'm Blake Atwell, and today we are very excited to welcome Bowling Green assistant coach German Srulovich. Coach, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
What is your day to day like right now as as a school starting back up and guys coming back to campus and the season drawing near?
Yeah, so tomorrow opens up the first day of recruiting where we can go out live. So I've been preparing for that, where we'll go these next 60 days before our season starts. And yeah, guys back on campus, trying to get them in the gym, trying to be prepared for workouts and get them acclimated and try to win a MAC championship.
Absolutely. I mean, coach, you've literally been in a lot of different
Yeah.
positions at a lot of different levels, and we'll touch on a lot of that. But as an assistant coach, how has that experience been like for you? What have been some of the, your the good parts, the bad parts?
Yeah. It's great to start from the bottom of where you're at. I always talk about kind of my routes coming up. I've bounced around so many different levels from being maybe like a big time person to I was a volunteer junior college assistant coach 5 years ago. I don't forget about that at all. So it's great to know those things. You know, what's the European game like? What's going on over there? Junior college, what's the landscape? Academics, compliance, those things through all different spots being at let's say a mid-major plus, low major plus, and mid, like all those different levels all help. And it's great to understand what type of basketball is being played at what level and just a full understanding of that, plus the relationships that you gain from it.
Absolutely. Coach, I want to ask you in terms of, as an assistant coach, obviously you do a lot of player development, recruiting,
Yeah.
it's all wrapped into it. Just as a D1 college coach, what are the things that you're looking for when you're looking to recruit guys?
The number one thing is if you know how to play basketball. It sounds simple, but it's really not because the game of basketball is in so many different ways. There's a tempo, there's a flow, there's a pace, there's a time and feel. Like, hey, is it my time to shoot the ball? Or is it my time to throw an extra? Is it my time to be loud? Or is it my time to keep our cool? Those are all things. Just understanding of IQ, I think, can go a long way with players. Our guys facilitating? Are you a cheerleader? Are you a energy vampire? Who are you as a person? That's like I think that's a really good foundation for where you can go from, and I think that's all tied into work ethic because you want to get guys that are talented and then help develop them and reach their goals. Uh, those are kind of the main ones, and I think if you can shoot the basketball, you'll find a way to be on the floor at some point.
And following up on that, coach, Scope Scouting is a player evaluation brand that touches on a lot of what you just talked about in terms of helping coaches like yourself sort of figure out, who could be good potential fits and who maybe, you would like to pass on and may have an opportunity elsewhere. How do you think that brand can be used and sort of just player development and looking for talent and all of that? How can all of that be used as a resource for you guys?
Yeah, I think Scope's one of the best things coming up going forward. We can only be in so many places at certain times. And even then, we're still limited. So I think what Scope's doing, it's really given us as coaches, especially at us at Bowling Green, a chance to evaluate a lot of kids, and it provides really clear data for us with film and everything they produce with their site and socials that allows us to be prepared and check their stuff and see what guys might be a fit for us. So I'm a big fan of Scope and what they have coming.
Awesome, awesome. Now I kind of want to get into your journey, coach, because like I touched on, you've been a lot of different places and you have a
Hmm.
bevy of experiences to share that I think our
Yeah, it's a good
viewers can
word,
get.
bevy. Nice.
Oh, thanks, coach. I appreciate that. I try. Um, take us through it, man. Like take us through
Yeah.
from the beginning, how you got to where you are now. Take our viewers along for the ride.
Yeah, I think I'll start back as generational. My family immigrated from the Soviet Union here, first generation to be in the United States, first generation to speak English. So it's been a big deal. Grandparents played basketball in the Soviet Union. It was a big deal. So kind of just played basketball. And then eventually, when I realized I wasn't going to play anymore or that journey was going to end, University of San Francisco under Rex Walters, amazing player development coach, amazing assistant coach, head coach. He's been great. Got my start there as a video guy and just a manager. And I was just running around rides, doing whatever they needed me to do just to be around and be there, and almost forced myself in by my work ethic. The next year, I got a job let me right before that, I was at the NBA Summer League. Got an internship there, which kind of opened up so many doors. And then I went to the Golden State Warriors in the analytics room. Did that for 2 years, and then I went over to Czech Republic in the second division. That team now is in the first division, but when I was there, second division it was called it's GBA Prague, GBA Sparta. They're in Czech Republic. I was the head coach for the second division team at 23 years old. So I made tons of mistakes, got to learn a lot, and then I helped out with their youth programs as well. And that's a key point is when I was over there, and it's something that we kind of will fall into later, but I really did a good job. I got credit myself at a young age of just trying to network because I was so unfamiliar with the European game. And it kind of opened up a lot of avenues and highways and routes that have taken me so many different ways. Then I go to Sacramento Kings as one of their 11 coaches, was a part of their coaching staff. And then after that, bounced over to Hapoel Jerusalem. At that point in the Euro Cup, it's famous with Amari Stoudemire was there, was really good. I was there for a season as an assistant, then two, and then I went as like a advanced scout the second year, and then I was transitioning back. I ended up going to college of Central Florida as a junior college assistant. So I think it's interesting the journey. Like I was in the NBA, I was in the high level, and then I go live in the dorms at a junior college, which is part of basketball. It's all part of your journey. Then I go to Southern Utah with COVID hits, and I was a video guy back on the ground, just a video guy, rides, doing whatever they needed, and just went from operations and then to an assistant now at Bowling Green, going to my second year here. So yeah, uh, junior college, NBA, Europe, Division One. I've done a lot of different roles as well. So that's a little bit about the journey.
That's amazing. And I know you even got an NBA championship wrapped into that, which is just it's so crazy, like timing wise. Like, and
Yeah,
I always think that's so crazy. Even like guys that just get drafted or coaches that get to the NBA and are there and bounce around and stuff like
yeah,
as you're going along for your journey, how that can work out sometimes and you can
yeah,
really be part of that, which is amazing. I mean, before I go forward, I just want to ask you about that since we're talking about it. What was it like to join the Golden State Warriors at a you got there and they're in this transition phase where they're this like fringe playoff team. They
yeah,
make a head coaching change, and then Steph Curry and Klay Thompson really take off, and they were, especially during that time, really a forward thinking organization. And I know you were a
yeah,
big part of that. So what was that
yeah.
like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to say I was super involved. When Sacramento, I was really hands on there. When I was in Golden State, I was really in the back. I was just doing analytics on a computer and just doing that. But it was great. I had a really amazing boss, Sammy Gelfin, and I would ask him a bunch of questions. And I asked him questions last week, coincidentally. So, it's going on 10 years, but I just asked him, like, what do they use the information for? And, I give a lot of credit to the organization of forward thinking and trying to take their talent and mesh it the right way. And, figuring out that Steph Curry was the best off the dribble shooter and Klay Thompson was the best catch and shoot guy. And eventually their offense kind of molds into those splits and high post and grenades and all those things kind of end up developing and blossoming. But yeah, they did a great job of taking the analytics and making it mesh. Granted, when you have a lot of shooting in space and tempo, and uh, I think it's a big thing of coaching. I think a lot of us and even players, like sometimes, like you might be a great shooter, but you might have a better shooter on your team, or you might be a great, and you become a better cutter. You have to be able to adjust and fit based off your personnel and your team as a player, as a coach, as a GM. I think those are all really important things is adjusting and adapting.
I mean, speaking of adjusting and adapting, coach, I know that, like you said, like with the Warriors, you had that role, which was impactful in its own way. Then you're with the
Yeah,
Kings and you said you were a lot more hands-on. I mean, your position that you have now as an assistant coach, obviously completely different level, completely different
yeah,
set of responsibilities. With all that being said, how do you package all that together and I guess use that to help these kids at the D1 level?
yeah. It's funny you asked this because I asked one of our junior college players who's here now. I said, "What's your biggest adjustment from junior college to here?" And he says, "It's just basketball," which is true. Like I swear to you, my first days in the NBA, like it's kind of just basketball. Now, maybe the pace, the way the ball bounces, the drills could be different, but the same way, like you're trying to accomplish the same things. What I think it does is when you're at different levels, it maybe gives you a perspective of what the elite players are doing or what the elite coaches are doing. Those are probably the biggest things I think I've noticed. The differences of maybe preparation, skill, size. And I think it's really good to explain to your players, hey, this is what goes on here, or this is what we've seen here. And I recommend a lot of coaches do the same thing. Like if you might not have NBA players on your team, or, but what are European teams doing? How are that? What's their style? How do you reach those kind of levels of talent or of IQ as well?
Yeah, absolutely, coach. And I mean, in talking about the different areas of the game that you've touched, at this point, do you have a favorite experience that you look back on, or is it kind of just like you're going where the opportunities are, or what,
Yeah.
in terms of the strategy part of it, of being in analytics, being in the video room, now
Yeah,
being,
I
an
can answer.
assistant?
It's an easy one. It's an easy
Okay,
one for
yeah,
me. It's
please.
an easy one. It's for sure being in Hapoel Jerusalem. Israel's an amazing place. It's an amazing country. The work-life balance that the country implements is something called Shabbat, which is like everything shuts down Friday night to Saturday night. So you have it's like a wind down. Stores are closed, places are closed. Majority of it, 90% of the country is. So it's really nice. But it was a high level of basketball. um, I don't mind being vulnerable about some things, but it was like I don't think I was a great coach before I went over there. I truly don't. I left there a much better coach because of the tactics of the game. And when we're in collegiate athletics at any level, and even in high school, you have a lot of other things going on. And even in the NBA, as much with travel and commitments outside with finances. In Europe, when I was at Hapoel Jerusalem, like I cared about working guys out and scouts, and that's it. Now there's other things that factor in, but that was the only thing. I was just hoops. Like I would just sit there and just watch film and cut film, and I really loved the preparation behind that. So it was the city and the country and the club and the people I worked for. So it was by far my favorite place.
That's amazing. It's so interesting hearing about how these different countries operate,
Yeah,
and how like basketball is basketball, but like, it can be, everything else can be so different depending on where you are in the world,
yeah,
which seems like it would be really cool. Um Again, staying on the topic of just kind of all the stops that you've had, coach, I'm sure that you've had a lot of different mentors along the way, and I'm just
yeah.
interested. I think a lot of our viewers would be interested to hear, like, what are some of those best pieces of advice that you've gotten from those mentors along the way?
Best piece of advice from the mentors.
Yeah,
Um, I'll tell you one. It's a hard one, and it's kind of a tricky one. Closed mouths don't get fed. I think it's really good to give ideas out or have a voice. Now there's a time and place, but if you're just never, and now it comes with preparation, what you're talking about, just spitting stuff out. But I think voicing an opinion or having fresh new ideas um, is really good. I think it's really healthy to have as long as you're prepared, not just spitting stuff out. I think that's a really great one. And another thing is I think is like implementing a work ethic. Like kind of you just got to put your head down and work. And it's like, yeah, sure, you'll see, but like at some point, if you're a high school player, like at some point, you don't need a trainer, you don't need this, you got to get in the gun, you got to go to the park, you got to play pickup, like something you just got to just do it. So I would say closed mouths don't get fed, and then two, you got to head down and just work.
that's awesome, coach, and appreciate the advice that you in turn, gave us there too, and
Yeah,
answering the question as well. And I wanna transition to that now more and go deeper into that advice part. I mean,
yeah,
coach, you started in on the video side. So,
hmm,
and I think, a lot of the people we've interviewed, that's how they've gotten their starts, either as like managers or as video coordinators or system video coordinators. What would your best advice be to those younger people in the business that are at that level now in terms of climbing the ladder and being successful?
yeah. I would say have a vision of where you want to go. What's the level? If you want to be a Division 3 uh, NBA coach, NBA GM, Division 1, whatever it is, I would try to stay focused on that goal because you can at least narrow down where you want to go. I think if you're NBA, you have to operate based off of what your value to the NBA can be. I need to go to a place where I can help bring value. Can I give them these players? Can I do that? Division one, like, all right, here's my goal. Like, I need to go to a place where I can help either at a lower spot and I can work my way up, or I got to go to a place where I can help, with recruiting. So I would say it's get to your vision and then find what's the most common or likely way to move up that rank. Now everyone's journeys are different. Like, Joe Mazzulla is very different situation, but he was a successful coach in Division Two. A lot of Division Two coaches now you go Division One. So there's all different ways, but I think you're going to be a collegiate coach or NBA, and I think it's at least having that vision of where you can go will uh, will at least help with the opportunities of rising up.
What's the biggest lesson that you think you've learned through the years that would be helpful for those to know? And off of that, like if you could go back, like is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah,
But I'm curious, just like what your perspective is at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. Less I think of like as a mistake. We've all made mistakes throughout our time. Uh, it's probably very much so as be humble in some ways too. And I got humbled quickly with through all these journeys. So it's great trying to not get too high on yourself in some ways. But I think that's a big one. A big is trying to kind of keep your vision forward and doing that. The other things I would say if I could go back in time is probably networking more. Talk to the coaches inside your league, inside the high school, inside on the AAU side, or you realize a lot of coaches in your league, like go back to the junior college ranks when I was there as an assistant, a lot of those coaches now, are also Division One guys or head coaches. There's multiple guys from when I was at that time that have now moved up. And especially when you're at the Division One level, those guys move up. Division Two guys move up all over. So I would say network amongst those guys. And uh, the other thing I would say, and I cannot say anymore, this do not be shy. Like, don't be afraid to hit somebody now under some sort of respect, but like a once a week text. Now it's got to come with some substance. I think is great. Now, hey, how's it going? But like, hey, I saw your game. What you guys run here? At least open the dialogue to be with some substance. Hey, I saw this kid here. Here's a clip. All right, like at least we're having a conversation. And it doesn't matter who. Like, you understand? Like, you could text the head coach and he responds one out of 10 times. Hey, he responded to me. He at least knows that. Don't be afraid or shy. We always get very. We think, maybe we get embarrassed or you don't want to bug, but at some point, like you're trying to open up a relationship or create something, like as long as you're not doing it in an annoying way and it's not very repetitive, but don't be afraid. Go talk to the person in the airport. Go say hi to this coach. Like at some point, it's okay to do it. I think we have to get away from being shy, and I think a lot of us in this industry want to help other people out. Like me, jumping on the podcast, I wouldn't mind helping you guys out. Like I think a lot of coaches are willing to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been one of the best parts of doing this is we've been able to get these interviews, which is awesome. And it's credit to people like you, coach, and all the coaches that we've had on the show that are interested in sharing that knowledge for the next people coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, um, obviously, you've had a lot of different stops, and that's one thing with coaching that I think we've learned through doing these shows is how flexible you got to be
Yeah.
with kind of not staking your claims in any one place as you're moving
Mm-hmm.
up the ranks. With that in mind, like if there's something that you could tell somebody maybe in college that's thinking about wanting to do this before they do it, what's something important they should know about this business?
Yeah, probably is your time commitment. This is a huge time commitment and that's I think if you want to be really, really good at this and you want to excel, you have to put basketball first. And that might be messed up to say, but you have to put basketball first, and then you can adjust your life off that. The other thing is reliability is availability. Like you like, all right, I want to be reliable, but you have to be available at the same time in order to be really successful. But there's a time commitment to this. Like some of your guys have class at 9, but they want to work out, and then they have class and they have live. Like, are you going to get up at 7:30 and work out with them if they want? Are you going to come back at 8? Are you willing to get up tomorrow at 5 a.m. to go drive to a recruit? You have to be passionate about it in order to do that. But your time management and commitment to this and putting basketball first, I think is very important if you want to excel and be better than everybody else.
Coach, what's your why in the business? What keeps you going during the good and the bad times?
I think it's passion. Like I like what I do. I think it's huge. I'm sure you enjoy doing these things. There's a passion level behind it. That's my why. Like I like doing this. I like coaching basketball. I like developing, myself as a coach. I like developing our players. I like what goes on. I think it's a big thing that, if you're why because you want to be famous or you want the perks of it, then those things drift away very quickly. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last question I got for you, Coach, is just long term. What are
mhm.
your future aspirations? I know you've already had a lot of different stops and experienced a lot of different things, but going forward, what's on your bucket list?
Yeah, it's definitely be Division One head coach. That's the plan of doing that. I would love to be a situation where you can build a program and you talk about the moves. I'd love to be a one spot that I really love and help develop it to be you know, be a powerhouse and have a foundation of growth throughout that time. And even with the day and age of the transfer portal and all that stuff, you can still have a foundation of fan base and workflow and those things, and that'd be really great to have. So definitely the plans to be a Division One head coach and continue building up towards there.
Coach Srulovich, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here? You want to touch on that people might be interested in terms of advice or anything else for the youngins out there?
Yeah. I would is a networking thing. I can't hone on the networking thing. Sean and I have, who's one of your cohorts on this, is and I've talked, and it's just kind of like out of those things. Don't be afraid to DM people. Don't be afraid to say hi. Talk to agents. Agents used to be like a scary thing. Go, oh, agents. Like, no, talk to them. They're human beings. Try to develop relationships. If you're trying to break into here's the thing. If you're trying to go play Division One basketball somewhere, go to their team camps, go to their elite camps. Those are huge things to go to be around it. And if you have to drive, go do that. If you want to break into the collegiate side, go to practices. Now, if you want to go to the NBA, hey, why don't you drive to your closest Power Five or your closest spot that has an NBA player? Go there, develop relationships, talk about it. Now, let's say if you want to be a college guy, hey, start talking to every assistant there, every Dobo, and build that relationship. If you're an NBA guy, go there. Hey, make a report on player X, like Yusuf Kayat, really good player for Bowling Green. Have that. Reach out to every single person in the NBA that you might know and send that stuff out. And now you're going there with substance in those conversations. So I think everyone wants to break in somehow, but break in with some substance. Go help them out with some information when you talk to them, and build those relationships going forward.
Bowling Greens, Coach Srulovich. Thank you so much for joining the show, Coach.
Thanks.
Absolutely, and thank you to our viewers and our listeners for tuning into another episode of Hoops U. Speaking of which, I got our hoodie on. We have a new merch store up. You can check that out. We're gonna put the link to that in the description. So support us, get some merch, get a hoodie, get a t-shirt while you're at it, and stay tuned because we will have another interview dropping next week. Thanks. See you next time.